Temptation. It's one of those things that no matter what you do, you can't avoid. We live in a world that is just bombarding us with temptation every day. Temptation to overeat, temptation to get angry, temptation to attack people, temptation towards pornography and illicit relationships, temptation to overspend. All kinds of temptations are bombarding us. And while it's wonderful to not be tempted, the reality is you'll never reach a point on this side of eternity where we're free of all temptation. Because the source of temptation isn't coming from you, but it is coming from within you. It's coming from something that's attached to you called the flesh. Now, the flesh or sin's not your nature, but it does reside in you. And every day, it's coming for you. It's trying to control you. It's trying to dominate you. And so how do we respond to that? Well, in Romans chapter 6, verses 11 to 13, Paul lays out for us a battle plan. He shows us how we can respond. And he begins in verse 11 with this phrase, recognize. It's the first command really in the whole book of Romans. And it's saying this is what you need to know. This is what you need to remember. That you, the old you, the sinner, was crucified, died to sin, and therefore sin no longer controls you. It no longer dominates you. Now you're alive to God in Christ Jesus. You're a new creation. You're connected to him, and therefore you're like him. You have those same desires. Verse 12, therefore, because of that, because you're a new creation, don't let sin reign. Don't let the flesh reign. Don't let it rule in your mortal body, that you would obey its desires. You see, those sinful desires aren't coming from you. The desire to lie and to cheat and to steal and get drunk, those desires are coming from the flesh, not from your real heart. And so he says, therefore, don't let it reign. Don't present yourself to it and become an instrument of unrighteousness. You see, that's what the flesh is trying to do. It's trying to use you, control you, manipulate you, so it can work its destruction through you, destroying things around you, but also just bringing destruction in your own life. So Paul says, don't let it reign. Don't offer yourself to sin. Instead, present yourself to God as alive from the dead, as a new creation. Present your members to him and become instruments of righteousness. And so we say, here I am, Lord. I see this temptation. I know it's trying to lead me down a path that's going to hurt me and those around me. But Lord, how do you want to satisfy these desires? What do you want to do in this moment? And maybe in that moment he says, go and speak words of kindness. Or maybe he says you need to step away from the moment right now. Maybe you need to turn off the computer or the TV. Or maybe you need to close that app so you don't go overspend on Amazon. Whatever it is he says in that moment, we follow him. And in doing so, we're not just instruments of righteousness, but we're experiencing and expressing his righteousness, which is now our righteousness. And thereby fulfilling your true heart's desires. So remember, you're dead to sin, alive to God. Don't let sin reign. Don't be an instrument of unrighteousness, but present yourself to God as instruments of righteousness. And that will overcome every temptation.